Welcome back to Roy's Studio Adventures. In today's Talk of the Town segment, we have Ernie Reinhardt. He will be interviewing a local singer-songwriter, Mr. Ron Sexsmith. They will talk about his songwriting style, how he started in music, a little bit about his famous brother, and much, much more. And that's coming up next on Roy's Studio Adventures.
Ron Sexsmith. So, Don?
Yes.
Where are you from?
I was born in St. Catharines.
Really?
Yeah.
You admit to that?
I do. Many won't, but I do.
Okay. All right. Everybody each his own, Don.
I moved away.
You moved away?
Yeah, I took a job in Toronto, so I moved away in 1982. I moved to Toronto.
And so what school did you go to?
I went to St. Catharines Collegiate for high school.
Yeah, and then you met a lot of guys and you hung out with them.
Yeah.
Were they musicians, or were they going to become musicians?
You know, it's funny. My brother's a musician, quite famous one too. But at the time, he had a little band going, and I was playing bass, trying to get a band started with some other guys. And I remember there was a guy named Nick Cruin. He's a reporter in Hamilton. He was a really good piano player. So he was put in charge by the music conductor for the school, the music program, and they put this band together. And I still remember the ending assembly in grade 11 or something. We played School by Supertramp, did a full production. So that was my first time performing live in front of any kind of audience, really, other than banging away around a campfire or something.
So you were one of those guys that took music instead of welding?
No, I took it all. At the collegiate, you take 9 shop classes.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you take everything. Welding, drafting, sheet metal work, auto mechanics.
Did you have a feeling that you were going to be a musician / tradesman, or tradesman with dabbling in music on the side?
Well, it's funny, you know, I loved music from an early age. I mean, my mother always had music going. You know, my dad had a high school band. He was a drummer. My mom played a little piano in her minor years, but always loved music. The music was always going in the house. So.
But here's a big difference. I love music. I have no talent whatsoever.
Well, it's nobody knows if they have any talent until they apply themselves.
No, I know.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, naturally, everybody can sing, right? Either they can sing well or not, but most people, if they don't play an instrument, they focus on the vocalist, whatever band it is.
That's right.
Because they think, well, I can't do that, but I can do that, and maybe not even well, but I can do that, right? And they go to karaoke and they sing their favorite song.
Oh my God, karaoke! Don't get me started, Don.
Yeah. But I mean, all the years I wasn't playing, I constantly went to karaoke because
I went there.
I wanted to sing songs that I can't play myself. Can't play them without a band. Can't replicate them on a guitar. You can't do them justice, right? So you go to karaoke and everything's there, right?
At what age did you start playing an instrument?
Well, I know my mother bought me my first kiddie guitar when I was about 10, and I'd bash around on it, but didn't really know what I was doing. She was a huge Elvis fan. 14, I started taking bass lessons. So my brother and I used to get on the bus and go down to the conservatory on Court Street, take lessons. Yep. He took guitar lessons. I took bass lessons. Like I just, like, you listen to Elvis Presley records, the bass is very, very, very dominant, very busy. It's all the rhythm with his music. No matter what he does, the bass is very dominant in the mix. So and of course then I became a big Who fan. So John Entwistle, like, wow, right? I got into Yes a little bit, but to a lesser degree. I thought, I'm never going to be that good at the bass, right? So then I kind of gravitated to, I wanted to be able to sing. Well, singing and playing bass is quite challenging. It's not as easy as Geddy Lee makes it look.
So did you have a favorite when you were growing up, that one person that you said, I want to be like that, play like that, sing like that?
Hearing the way Pete Townsend used to write all his songs with 3 tape recorders, he'd do the rhythm track, and then he'd hit play, and then he'd overdub some lead on this machine, and then he would overlap a vocal on this machine, and try and get, a rough mix. And it was just fascinating that to find out that somebody as successful as he was using whatever equipment was available.
Did you ever study music?
Well, I went to the conservatory for about a year and a half to take bass once a week, and my teacher, a guy named Mike Biancanella, he was in some of the local bands around. He was like a engineering student at McMaster. He was in his second or third year, and he taught bass and taught my brother guitar.
Do you remember your first gig?
Well, other than the high school assembly, where I was just a guy in the band.
Yeah.
My first paying gig was at the Lions Tavern in either late '79 or early 1980. A few guys, local guys, were advertised, and I think they advertised in the Standard for a bass player. So
Wow.
I called them up. And these were guys that were in their late 20s, early 30s, so they were established musicians already, playing around. And so I went down for the tryout, and I guess I fit the bill. So they hired me, and next thing you know, we were almost like the unofficial house band at the Lions. We played about 2-3 day runs every month for about 6 months. And then, I don't know, the band was breaking up for some reason. I didn't know why.
What was the name of your band?
Well, we didn't get
I'm
long
sure-
enough to. We weren't there long
enough to have a name?
Our name was Gumball Suite.
Gumball Suite.
Yeah, suite like hotel suite.
Yeah.
And Gumball.
Why?
I think Danny came up with the name. Danny Hatchkowski. He was a guitar player, very intense guy. He was also an engineer. He worked at John Deere, and I was just a bass player. And that was right around the time Springsteen came out with the River album, and I had, and Hungry Heart was a big hit, first real top 10 hit for Springsteen. So I said to the guys, look, I want to sing this tune. So they let me, and so that was my first time singing live in front of anybody and playing bass at the same time. So that kind of gave me the bug. I like the crowd response. If you sing a song well and they
don't
respond,
throw things at you?
That's right.
That's good.
Yeah, so I guess that was my first time getting paid to sing, so that's 44 years ago.
What was your biggest concert?
That I went to, or that I played in?
Played.
Well, I moved on, like that. I say that band broke up, and then I moved to Toronto for a job, and for about 8 years I did nothing. And then a band in Toronto, I knew the drummer, and he said, hey, here's a bunch of songs. We're going to have a band rehearsal to replace our bass player next week. Come on out. So I went, and I guess I learned the songs well enough that they gave me the job. And so it was funny. They had an outdoor performance. Their original bass and sax player played the first set. I showed up. They took their gear, and away they went, and I filled in for the rest. And so I was in the band for 10 years. But we were on Breakfast TV a couple times.
Okay.
We played a big pre-Grey Cup party at the Sky Domes, probably 1,500 people there,
Nice.
Teams, their wives, news people, reporters. It was
Did you ever write anything?
Write songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written probably 100 songs.
That's all?
Yeah, well.
We had 8 years where you were doing nothing. Why weren't you
Yeah.
writing?
Well, I wrote a couple songs back then, but, I had a job, involved a lot of work, a lot of overtime, and truth be told, songwriting...
I feel like a cop. I should have a spot. I should have a light and put it in your
songwriting,
eyes.
believe it or not, songwriting doesn't come as natural as you might think.
Listen, I couldn't write a song if my life depended on it.
I mean, my brother's written probably thousands of songs.
Really?
Yeah, he's got 18 or 19 albums out.
Oh my
He's traveled
God.
the world. I mean, every time I write a song, I go, well, it sounds like somebody else, and I kind of shelve it, right?
Right.
But when you think about it, there's like 15 notes, right?
You're asking me?
Well,
I only know how to
there's-
make wine.
8 notes and 7 sharps or flats, thereabouts, right?
I
So
knew that.
really, they just repeat. So you can't help but put together a natural sounding progression that doesn't sound like something. The question is the changes, the bridge, the words are different, right?
Are the words the hardest part?
Depends. I get words, phrases all the time pop into my head, and I used to not write them down, and now I pop them into my note on my phone. And so next time I pick up the guitar, I'll say, well, what kind of structure would that song have? Or is it a driving song? Is it a ballad? What is it?
Have you been on TV at all?
A couple times. Our band played on breakfast television about 2 or 3 years apart, because there was constant singing guitar player changes. In the 10 years I was there, me and the same drummer for about 8 of those years, the same lead vocalist and keyboard player, but then we added another keyboard player, and then we added one female singer, and then 2 years later she left, and we brought in another woman.
How do you commit a song? Like if somebody gave you a chart and said, this is what you're going to be playing tonight, how do you memorize that whole thing?
Well, a lot of its lyrics and chord changes are tied together. I mean, you would agree, Roy? Sometimes you just know, okay, when I go to the B minor, I sing this. That's the start of the bridge, right? So, I mean, there's songs that I've never learned to play, but like you, I'm sure, when a song you like comes on the radio, you didn't consciously memorize the lyrics, but you know every lyric while it's playing.
Yes, it's
You can't start singing right now.
That's right.
But as soon as Moni Moni comes on the radio, you never consciously tried to learn it.
That's right.
But as soon as here she comes, you know the next line.
That's right. Of all the songs that you've written, what's your favorite?
Well, you know how people, famous songwriters will say, I'm just the vessel, I'm the vehicle.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get up this morning and say, I'm going to write a classic song.
Right.
That had never happened to me really, except for maybe 3 times. Like I had to get to paper, I had to get to my guitar and write the idea down. So a couple of years ago, I don't know what happened, my wife said something, and I thought, well, this is enough, COVID, watching a lot of TV and hanging around, just doing nothing. So she said something, and I thought, I'm going to play my guitar. And as soon as I picked it up, it's the only time it's ever happened in my entire life. I wrote a whole song, start to finish, 3 verses, chorus, intro, instrumental, wrote the whole song. I recorded it. I put the tape on, and I wrote it on a Tuesday. It was June 12th, 2022, and I had started going to an open mic. You guys know Daryl Gray? He's a bass player at Helix. He's
been on the show a few times.
He's been at Helix like for 40 years or something. But he's also, he teaches music, he's got a recording studio, and he plays solo, and he's got a band he plays with. Well, Dan Diggins plays the band.
Now Dan Diggins.
What's their band called again?
Scurvy Dogs.
Scurvy Dogs, yeah. So the Scurvy Dogs, they play all the big bar shows, they play the Regency everywhere around.
Right, sure.
Dan plays with them, and Daryl does a lot of the same material with his solo show and obviously the louder songs with his band show. And I thought, that guy's making a pantload of money doing this. And I thought, I should do that. Now, I'm not going to join Helix. I'm not going to be invited to join a big band like that. But, I wrote this song, and do you know T-Bone Booker and Tommy Bruno? They're local guys. They've been around for 50 years playing in the area. And so they used to go to this open mic that Daryl ran in Meriton. So they always played standards like Route 66 and, I can't think of the other ones, but a lot of the standards that guys play that go well with the harmonica. And I still bump into Tommy at several open mics I go to. And so I said, hey guys, I got this blues song. It's a shuffle I wrote. Let's play it.
On that note, did you bring a guitar?
I got a guitar, yeah.
Do you have it here?
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a little demo?
I could do that. Hi everyone, this is a song I wrote in June of 2022. It's called Black and Blue. You know I love you, and you know it's true. You know I love you, and you know it's true. But when you look at me that way, my heart turns black and blue. You know I love you, I ain't lying. Lying. But when you look at me that way, I sometimes wish I was dying. Here today, when I stand, broken man. Here today, said I stand, broken man. When I found that note out on the table, then I found your wedding man. Here today, I feel lost, forgotten like a fool. Here today, I feel lost, forgotten like a fool. You were my 10-carat diamond, baby. You were my greatest jewel. I wrote that song start to finish, and I was super proud of it. And so I play it at every show now, and people, you know, I don't know whether, if I don't tell them it's mine, they kind of clap along. If I tell them it's original, they seem to go. But if you just play it and look for the tapping feet,
Yeah.
they don't know who it is. They say it could be anybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't really have a band, although I am in talks with a couple of local guys. You might know Mike Dixon. In fact, I was talking to him this morning on the phone. He's available if I need a drummer, because there's all these gigs that come up. Oh, yeah, we don't hire solos. So I want to have a bass player, who I've got a bass player who's at the ready. I've got another lead guitar player who's at the ready. So I want to be able to take the songs I sing in my solo act and then electrify them and put bass drums and electric guitar lead to them so I can play them in clubs too. I'm getting tired of, oh yeah, we don't hire solos. You know, so I don't necessarily want to have a band where I have to play every weekend with 3 guys, but if the chance to play, you know, in September, somebody says, yeah, we need a band, I'm in. So I can get these guys. They're all pros. They're like Dan. Like if Dan's not playing somewhere else and I need a good lead player, I mean, that's why I chose Dan. Like when I recorded my original music last year, I put down 9 tracks at Steve Goldberger's shed in Niagara-on-the-Lake. You know Steve? Well, Steve's a consummate professional. He put together one of Gravely James' releases. Have you heard of him? I think he won Battle of the Bands last year.
Oh.
Chris Madronich, she's just an amazing instrumentalist and lead singer. Just, you know, he's just got that thing that you want to watch, right, when he's playing. So I said to Chris one night at one of the clubs, I said, who did you record with? He said, well, Steve Goldberger. So finally last September, I called Steve up. I said, listen, I got your name from so I'm interested in putting some of my original music down before I'm old enough that I can't do it. And so he gave me a slot, and I went over there and I put down probably 9 tracks live off the floor. And then he sent me the digital mixes, or you know, so I could have them. And I said, listen, I want to bring in some bass and drums. And I originally wanted to get Mike, but Steve said, well, I got a guy I use, and his drums are already in my studio, so so I did. So I went over there and I phoned Dan. I said, listen, Dan, I'd really love it if you could play some guitar in these 4 songs I'm recording. So I sent him the basic tracks, me and vocals. And he obviously worked on them, because when he showed up, 3 takes, we had all the songs. Like all 4 songs, like we did all of them in 3 hours. Maybe 1 or 2 shots, and that's it. And then I'm part of this Niagara Musicians Network. A guy named Bryce Moore runs it. And if people have gigs they can't do, they offer them up to anybody. There's probably a couple hundred musicians on this thing. And if it fits your schedule and you're off, you can do it. So I picked up 2 gigs yesterday.
Nice.
I'm rocking the beach, as they say, in Crystal Beach. This Friday I'm at Casa Hugo.
Yep.
And Saturday night I'm at Legacy, which is the old Sneakers.
Right.
And then, like, next week I'm at the Canal Side.
So
on
people...
the 20th I'm at the... Have you seen this Niagara Exchange Market that opened up over here on Sylvia Place?
No,
No.
not yet.
Yeah, it's a huge, beautiful facility. They got a mate coffee lounge in the front, and they got a supper market every Wednesday. And every Saturday and Sunday, this other fellow, Uzo, has rented out the big room, and all these vendors come in and sell their, you know, jewelry or stuff they make at home or
This
vegetables.
is just behind Queen Street.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility.
Nice.
So I'm playing there next the 20th and the 21st.
So if people want to see you, hear you, book you, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a Facebook page, Sexsmith, Sexsmith, and then I built another Facebook page where people can directly contact me through that. It's Sexsmith, Sexmyth. I had to spell it so they don't think they're coming to see my brother. So I changed it. I took out the S and I made it Sexsmith, Myth, just like the hat here. So it differentiates my stuff from my brother. And so I have Sexsmith Music Live Entertainment. So there's a way you can message me, and if you want to book me, you can message me direct, and I can tell you the availability or.
That's a great use. That's a great use for Facebook.
Yeah. But again, since I joined the Niagara Musicians, I haven't had to use it.
Don, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you, Ernie.
Nice to meet you, Don. It's a pleasure.
And thanks to Roy. I appreciate it.
Yes, thanks, Roy.
Anytime.
Roy's Studio Adventures. Until next time, to be continued.